Hello, welcome to Friday.
Hello.
It's the final day of our Take 5 at the start of this new year. Welcome back. I hope you're tracking with us through John's Gospel. We will have done the first 6 chapters by the end of today.
Yes.
And then Anthony's carrying on with the next few chapters.
And then Equa got it during the final week.
Yes, and she will finish John's Gospel.
Yes, she will.
So we're going to rattle through John's Gospel in these first 3 weeks. But it's a great way to start the new year. And we've got as far as chapter 6.
We have.
And I suppose there are 2 main stories here. Jesus feeding the 5,000 is the first one. And then we come to Jesus walking on the water. So we've actually chosen to look at the feeding of the 5,000, which is probably one of the most well-known miracles, isn't it?
It has to be. It appears in all 4 Gospels, so I guess it's probably one of the ones that everybody would know.
Yeah, and John seems to point to this being another sign. So we've got something to learn from that about Jesus as well. You'll remember this story, I'm sure you know it very well, where the crowd is following Jesus and pressing in on him, and they're hungry.
They are.
I'm not surprised if you've been there all day.
Yes, it's been an all-day event. There's lots of people. They're a long way from the nearest shop.
Yeah.
And there's no food.
That's right. And it's a big old crowd. And we know it's the feeding of the 5,000, but John clearly says about 5,000 men were there. So if we say, well, maybe there's another 5,000 women, another 10,000 children, could easily be. We could have a crowd of 20,000, possibly more.
Yeah.
That's a big old crowd, isn't it? You know, it's a small football stadium of people.
Yes.
And when Jesus says, well, let's feed them, you can imagine the disciples' eyebrows
Consternation.
shooting off their heads.
Yeah. How are we going to do that?
It's a lot of people. It's a big crowd. It's like Sunny Hill putting on an event in Poole Town Centre and 20,000 people rolling up, and then someone saying, well, we need to feed them now. Well, 20,000 people. That's an expensive meal.
It is.
And in fact, that's exactly what Philip says when Jesus says, let's feed them. And Philip turns to him and says, you've got to be kidding. We haven't got that sort of money. It's 6 months' wages to feed this lot, this crowd. But Jesus is testing him.
Yeah, because Jesus knows already exactly what he's going to do.
He does. It's really interesting what the scripture says here. It says that Jesus asked this. This is John's comment on Jesus' words. Jesus asked this only to test him, that's to test Philip, for he already had in mind what he was going to do. There's no maybe it will, maybe it won't here. Jesus knew what was about to happen. He had it planned out. He was ready to go. But really, he's just throwing the disciples a little faith bone here and saying, come on, let's see what your faith is up to. Yeah. And actually, it's not that great. Poor old Philip, he doesn't do so well. And then Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, he says, here's a small boy with 5 small barley loaves and 2 small fish, but how far will they go amongst this great big crowd? Maybe he's getting a bit closer, but he's still not there, is he quite?
No, but if you think about the boy and how he must have felt with his very meagre small offering amongst all these very many people. And so I can imagine him feeling a little bit sort of, well, you know, he's saying, here's a small boy with loaves and fishes. He must have thought, well, they're going to laugh, or are they going to think, well, it's a nice thought, but, you know, don't worry about it. There's nothing. He might have thought that he was going to be sort of turned away, perhaps.
Maybe.
And then, just thinking about him and us, and then he has to be prepared to part with his offering.
To give it up.
He has to be prepared then to give it up. And in doing that, he goes from a place where actually he's all right because he's got a meal and he's not going to go hungry, to a place where he's going to have nothing. He's going to be left from a place of comfort, if you like, to a place of
hunger.
This isn't so good now.
Yeah.
So that boy is demonstrating all kinds of things in his trust in parting with his food and putting himself then in a place of discomfort.
Yes. And he, like you say, he's giving up
the
little that he has.
Yes.
But, and he doesn't know this, and that sometimes we because we know the end of the story, we jump there too quickly, don't we?
We do.
But it's good to put yourself in that place for a moment. The disciples are throwing up their hands in horror. What are we going to do? This little boy has come up and Jesus has taken his food from him. I mean, what's going on here? And then we know we get the miraculous.
Yes.
We get Jesus very calmly and methodically saying, get them to sit down, get them in groups, make sure they're sat on the grass because we're going to pick up the spare bits afterwards. You know, we don't want any mud and dust on it. He's got it all in hand. And this little boy, like you say, gives up what he's got.
Yeah. And
then Jesus does the incredible.
Yeah.
And produces more than enough.
That's a great lesson for us, isn't it?
Pretty good. It's pretty good. Time to give up the little we've got so that Jesus can do the incredible in your life, in my life, in Sunny Hill's life. So what is it that you're perhaps holding on to today that it's time to hand over to Jesus and give up and say, yours, Lord, do with it what you want. There's something to think about today, isn't it?
Yeah.
We've had to come out into our conservatory because the house is so packed with Christmas guests. This was the only quiet spot to film Friday, so that's why we're out here. And I must also apologise for the light quality on, was it yesterday's?
Yes.
It's very dark, but we wanted to keep it in because the sound was there, and we felt that...
And we figured that you all know what we look like.
Yes,
so.
yeah. But have a great weekend, and keep tracking with us on John's Gospel. Read ahead over the weekend and see what Anthony's going to come up with. We look forward to seeing you at Sunny Hill in the new year.
Yep.
Have a lovely weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye.